In today's video, I want to go through the top 10 interview questions that you are likely to face and the best answers to them. If you haven't seen our channel before, we do videos aimed to help employees. And that's employees either in employment or those seeking employment. The channel is very much about being honest, being real and telling as it is. If you like the sound of this channel, do consider subscribing to our channel, and if you do, don't forget to click the bell icon so you're not going to miss any one of our forthcoming videos. With that, let's get to this video. So what are the top 10 interview questions that you are likely to get, and what are the best responses and answers to them? To be honest, trying to get these 10 interview questions wasn't as easy as it sounds. It's not as if there's a list that every company goes by and they're standardized. Companies these days, they tend to get a little bit more creative with things. So I've gone through an educated guess of what we find the top 10 interview questions are. And bear in mind, we're a recruitment company. We do all different levels of roles, everything from graduates up to senior executives. So we've taken into account all of the typical stuff you get, and these questions, although if you go into an interview being honest with you, you're unlikely to get asked all of these questions, but you're very likely to come across at least probably 5 or 6 of them in any interview you go into in their guise. They might be worded slightly differently, but these are going to be things that you're going to be familiar with. Certainly if you go into 3-4 interviews for a job, you're going to come across the majority of these questions in one way or another. So here goes. Here's the top 10 questions that you're likely to get and how you should go about answering them. Question 1. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Okay, so this is a very common interview question. You're probably likely to go into any permanent interview and be asked a question in some form or other about how long you're going to stay in a job. And all they're looking to establish is, are you going to be leaving after 5 minutes or are you going to stay long term? What you don't want to do, even if in your own mind, is that you're thinking, I'll do the job for a year and then I want to go traveling, or I need a job for the meantime to tide me by, but I'm going to keep looking for someone else. You don't want to be too honest if that is what you're looking to do, because any employer is just going to go, well, if they're not going to stay in the job, why would I hire them? They don't want someone who's going to come to the job who's going to leave after 6 months. The easiest way of answering this question is to basically say, I'm looking for a job specifically like this and I want to stay long term for these reasons. And give them 2 or 3 plausible sounding reasons. So for example, this job is what I've been looking for up to this point in my career. There's a few things that I've kind of done, but this is what I enjoy. The opportunity to do a job like this, and what I've read about your companies, you're a good firm, the hours suit me, the location suits me, the type of job that it is suits me. You want to be saying to them, look, I want the job, I want to stay for a long period of time, and you want to back it up with plausible sounding reasons. 2, what's your biggest weakness? You see, the question itself isn't really looking for what your biggest gaping weakness is. When an interviewer goes in to interview someone, they're not expecting you to be perfect. But the best way to answer a question like when they're asking you about your weaknesses is to focus on something which is a key part of the job, but then establish that your weakness is you care too much about doing that job properly. And let me give you a couple of examples. If you're a swimming pool attendant, for example, sometimes I care a little bit too much about when kids are running around the side of the pool. I don't want someone slipping over, so I'm probably a little bit too worried about health and safety. If you're in a maintenance role where you're fixing things, then you probably want to answer it where you say, when I fix something, I find myself sort of double checking a couple of times to make sure I've done it properly, even though I know I've done it correctly. Just want to make sure it's done correctly. The interviewer's probably sat there thinking, this guy cares too much about doing the job properly. That's a great answer. And it's seen as a strength rather than the weakness. But most people you see don't answer the question like that. Nobody thinks to answer a question like that. I used to go into interviews, not to blow my own trumpet, I don't think I've ever done an interview for anything where I haven't got offered the job. And I'm not even that good off of CV, to be honest with you. I'm not amazing or anything, but I've always answered a question like that. I don't know, someone told me years ago to answer it like that, and it's always worked, and you'll always get a question like that in there. That's my trick of doing it, and it's always worked for me. Question 3. If you're employed, why are you looking to leave your current employer? And if you're unemployed, why did you leave your previous employer? The best way to answer this question is to follow 2 simple rules. The first is do not criticise your old employer. You would be amazed how many people fall into this trap of slagging off their old employer, even though they started the question by saying, well, they were all right, and then diving into all of the things that they did wrong, how they let them down, and how bad it was to work for them. Doing that doesn't make your previous employer look bad and make you look like an angel. It just makes you look like someone who'll blame everybody else for your own mistakes. It looks unprofessional, it doesn't put you in the best light, and most interviewers really don't like it. And the second rule you want to follow is that the reasons you give for leaving your previous job are taken away and fixed if you were to get the job that you're interviewing for. If the job before had a free shift pattern and one of those was nights, and the job you're going for now had a double days pattern, mornings and afternoons, and you say, well, to be honest with you, I like working the morning and afternoon shift, but I didn't want to work nights. This job's not nights, the old one was nights. Great, you're taking away a reason for leaving. Question 4. What are you looking for in your next job? What the interviewer is looking for you to say is that the job you're interviewing for with them is exactly what you are looking for, and then give them legitimate sounding reasons why that is the case. What you want to do is have probably a read through the spec, have a read through the company's website before you go in there, maybe find a little bit about the projects that they do, find some form of secondary depth, because if it looks to the interviewer as you've read up a little bit about the company, it's not just you've read the advert, but you've read a little bit more depth about the company, it can sound a lot more legitimate. It sounds like, well, if you've taken the time to read up about the company, then that backs up that you're genuinely keen on the company and the job itself. Question 5. How much money are you looking for? So the purpose of this question is fairly straightforward. All an interviewer is looking to establish is what money would you need if we were to offer you the job in order for you to accept it. That part, pretty simple. The difficulty comes in that this question, when it does tends to come up near the end of the interview itself. When the latter parts of an interview come in, you're probably a little bit emotionally charged. You've just been sat in an interview being grilled, or it might be a stressful experience, you might still be quite nervy or whatever. What you don't want to do is all of a sudden let your emotion take control of your answer. And I'll give you a reason why. You see, if you think the interview has gone really well, there's all smiles, stuff like that, you might be really tempted to think, could get a couple of extra grand here, I might push my luck. They might then inadvertently think you're just a money grabber, or you've gone over what the actual budget that they will want for. Even if in your own mind you have a set figure that you would want, you might get a little bit greedy thinking the interview's gone well. It can be really dangerous, and I've seen it backfire. On the other side, you might think, I don't know how this interview's gone, they give me poker faces, I haven't got a good feeling about it, I'm not sure. You might have nailed the interview, they might be really impressed with you. So if you all of a sudden think, I'll just give an answer as low as I can, the bottom end of the salary, just because I really want the job, you might have shot yourself in the foot, you could have got more money. The best way of answering this question is probably to say, look, I know what money you're offering, don't give them a figure, bear in mind, I'm within that limit. You know, where would you look at offering me if you were to offer me the job? Where would you rate me on money-wise? I'm not really sure on this. You want to play it a little bit dumb, I guess. You don't want to sit there and give them a figure. You want to try and do everything you can to avoid giving them a figure. If they do force you, then give them the honest answer of what you would want for the job within reason. Don't get too greedy. Be sensible about it. Question 6. What do you know about our company? This question basically is to see whether you've done your homework. If you go into an interview and you haven't looked at the company website, you haven't perhaps read through the advert, the job spec, something like that, you're probably not lining yourself up for a very good answer here. Now, if you went to an interview with Nissan, for example, and Nissan said to you, do you know what we do? And you go, well, I know you make cars, you do like Nissan Qashqais and stuff like that. It's a bit silly. If it was like going into an interview with Gillette and going, like, no, you make razors. What they're looking for in the answer is, have you had a look at the website? Have you taken the time to look into it? The purpose of the question is to see whether you're someone who actually gives a damn about getting the job. Question 7, curveball questions. I'm going to give you an example of a curveball question. If you were a biscuit, what type of biscuit would you be and why? And many people go into an interview and they go, why are you asking me that question? What possible relevance does that have to the job that I'm going in for? And the purpose of the question is not for you to actually answer a legitimate kind of question or even to know the answer. What they're looking for is to kind of put you out your comfort zone and see how you deal with something which you don't know. They're trying to see your stress reaction, if you like. Whenever you come across a problem in a job, you don't know how to do it, what is your first reaction? What's the way you handle it? And what they're looking for your response is basically to go, take a moment to think about it. They're looking for you almost to take 5 seconds to have a think about the answer. So if, for example, they're asking you the question about if you were a biscuit, what biscuit would you be and why? Something like, I'd be an Oreo. I'm hard on the outside, I've got different layers to me, but I'm quite soft and kind on the inside, and I'm nice and sweet. Sounds really cheesy, but they're basically just looking to see whether you can deal with something that has thrown you off, see whether you can take a step back and think about it. Question 8. Could you give us an example of when you have come across a difficult situation or a difficult problem that you didn't know how to fix and how you went about solving that problem? The answer itself is kind of a long-winded one. They're looking for you to probably give a wholesome answer. These questions come in the type of interviews which are very HR-led. It's the kind of interview which is called a competency-based interview. If you ever hear that you're going into a competency-based interview, these are the type of questions that you're going to get. What the interviewer is looking for, and you may even see them or their note taker ticking off boxes as you answer this question, is a mini story with a beginning, middle and end. They're looking for you to set the scene of what the scenario is that you have come up with. So if, for example, if you're a car mechanic and you've come across a fault on a car that you don't know how to fix, you've set the introduction. I'm a car mechanic, I was doing the job, this was the scenario, this was what the fault was. And make sure whatever story you give them is relevant or is near relevant to the job that you're interviewing for, so they can understand or at least put themselves in your shoes when you faced that situation. Your middle part of it is then how you went about trying to diagnose what the problem was, what the issue was. If you don't know the answer, what's your logical thought process to find out the answer? Is there manuals? Is there someone you could ask? Is there someone you could call? Is there anyone with credibility who may know that particular answer, who would be qualified or have the proven experience to give you the correct answer? And then when you did speak to them, did you then listen to the exact instructions and establish how you should go about it to try and confirm whether that is the actual problem? Then, once you're in that position, you confirm this correct problem. How did you go about resolving it? I did this, this and this to be able to resolve it. I double checked that it was all fixed, tick box exercise, and that's your conclusion. Number 9, when you're asked a technical question that you don't know the answer to. Now, they may ask you in an interview a few questions about a job, and most interviewers, certainly in any job that requires some sort of skill set, they're probably going to want to establish what is the limit of your skill set. So almost expect there to be some questions that you go, don't really know the answer to that one. If you do come across this, what you don't want to do is then go, I don't know. It doesn't add anything to your answer and it's just going to be an X. So what you want to do is give what would be called an educated guess. So you want to say, look, I'm not sure, I haven't come across it before, and be honest with them. If you try to say, well, this is what I do and it's clearly wrong, they just think you're a bodger or an idiot. So you don't want to do that. You want to establish, look, I don't know the answer to it, but I'm thinking it's along these lines, and you want to have some sort of logical basis. So if it's a similar thing to what you've done before and you've got a good idea of what the answer might be, you want to again establish, I don't know what the answer is, but I've come across this scenario, and what I usually do is I follow this process to be able to do it, so I would probably look at that. But if I didn't know the answer to it, I'm going to ask, and when I get taught how to do it, I'm the kind of person that's going to remember, and once I've learnt the lesson on it, I'll know for the future kind of thing. The worst case scenario in that instance is they're then going to think, okay, they don't know the answer, but to be fair, they're probably, from their intelligence, you can see they're probably going to be able to work out how to do it with a little bit of training. Not really a big problem. Okay, someone to train them on, we can work on that. Question 10. Why do you think you are right for this job? This question is all about selling yourself. And I understand while some people find that straightforward, don't mind selling themselves, not a problem, other people find it about as much fun as trying to stick pins in your eyeballs. There's two simple things you want to do. When you try to answer a question like this, you want to consider the job itself on a task basis. Can you do the job? Do you think you're going to be someone who can do the job, who can add value to the job that they need done on a day-to-day basis from your experience, from your skill set, etc. And then the other part of it is that you want the job. your motivations. Look, I like the job. This is the sort of thing that I really want to get into. I'm quite excited to work here. It sounds like a great company. You see, some interviewers are looking for an answer which says, can they do the job? Why do you think you're right for this job? I can do this, 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 and this. Okay, box ticked. And they're not bothered about how motivated you are. They just want to see you can do the job. And other people want to see, are you the kind of person who's up for it, who's keen, who wants to learn, who's going to be a good team player or whatever. If you answer it using both of those, you're almost definitely going to give them what they want to hear. So there are the 10 questions that I think you're most likely to get and how to answer them. But you might be watching this video having expected to hear other questions. You might be thinking, why hasn't he asked that one? And to be honest with you, I looked through a possible list of 30, 40 questions that you could ask in interviews, or you may well have in interviews. If there's enough other questions that people write in with going, how would I answer this question, or what should I say if I come across that, then there's another 10 questions. I could well do a part 2. So if you come across other questions, do put them in the comments below, and I can put together another video and show you how to answer those questions. If you like this video, do give us a like. If you haven't subscribed to our channel already, why the hell not? Subscribe to our channel, click the bell icon if you do, and select all, so you're not going to miss any one of our videos, and we'll see you soon for another video.